Hello Steelers, and welcome to this review of the brand new Wrightsfits Press Strength and Honour. This is written by Mark Backhouse. The book itself I think was laid out by Henry Hyde. It's been produced by Wrightsfits Press, the sister publication house of Two Fat Lardies, and there's lots of illustrations in here also by Joe Bilton as well. Now this just came through the post for me just the other day. I bought it I think on Thursday and it's arrived on Saturday. I've read through the rules. I've actually also played a couple of games of this as well recently down at the club. We're going to be playing another one this week as well. So I thought I'd do a review on it because I've played enough of it after a couple of games to get a good idea of the rules, and also I pretty much read the entire rules as well. Having played the game, I've not taken them in, so I thought what I'll do is I'll just really give you a review of my thoughts on the thing. The first thing I've got to say is that I am not an ancient gamer. I never really have been. It's not really a period that appeals to me too much. However, I have had my eye on Strength and Honour since Mark first started making his 2mm figures way back when, just out of green stuff. So that's a few years ago now. I've been following him on Twitter and also on Facebook and things, and just watching him grow his collection of 2mm figures, and then just the bearing of fruit of the rules themselves. I've seen it played at both Vamp Attack and at Hammerhead as well. I spoke to Mark as well. You'll see it on Mark and Charlie, in fact. You'll see their interviews in those respective show reports that you can find on this channel as well. So I've been well aware of it, and how it's, I've literally had my eye on it from the start, but I've finally given in and actually bought the thing as well. What has also arrived today, this is just something just off the cuff. I went to Docs Direct and I got the cards printed, double-sided here, so the disaster cards here, the setback cards as well. Got all these double printed. I'm just waiting for some laminating pouches so I can actually laminate these and put these together. I also, Paul Clark over at our club as well sent me through the PDF of the pre-order armies. I don't think these are going to ever be available. I'm not sure. Maybe at some point in the future if people put enough pressure on Rich at Two Fat Lardies. But I got these printed on cardstock again over at Docs Direct, and again I'm going to get these laminated, and then when I've got all that sorted out I will actually play some games of Strength and Honour as videos, so you can see exactly how it works on the tabletop. So the first thing to talk about really is the fact that it's based for a 2mm rules, but you can use 6mm. You could probably actually use up to 28mm as well if you really wanted to, but obviously you'd only have one or two figures on your bases. The 2mm figures look great. Paul over at the club has printed out some of the Project Wargaming ones that Aaron has produced that you can buy and download the STL files of. And he has produced those, and they look fantastic on the tabletop, look really good. All you needed is a gridded gaming mat, and to be honest you could just put points or just tokens down just to show you where the grids are anyway. So it's a relatively easy way to get into the game. The 2mm stuff is very, very cheap overall. I think Warbases also make some metal versions of them as well. So it's quite a low entry point, just as a financial thing if you really want to just get into it pretty quick. As I say, if you do know somebody who's got the PDFs of the printable armies, it might be worthwhile just tapping them up and see if you get hold of the printable armies off them. I don't have them anymore, but I know a man who does. So basically, as I say, it's meant to be based around large battles, but played on smaller tables. So it gives you that overall bird's eye view that we generally, we like as wargamers. And from my point of view, I like big battle feel to games. So I like things like Blucher, which is similar because that's based with each base is a brigade, so it's huge numbers of men. And it's the same with these. It's each base that you've got is between 1,000 and I think 10,000 men, depending on the scale that you're playing your game at. So you can do really small encounters all the way up to the massive battles of the ancient period, and it plays within a couple of hours as well, which is great. Great for a club night. As I say, we've usually started about 7 o'clock-ish and we've finished up by about 9:30 with a definite end to the game, and that's even with everybody learning the rules as well. So once you pick the rules up, it gets even quicker. As always, we'll be playing again this week. We'll be playing it again over at Partisan at the weekend, so by then you know, most of the rules will be firmly in our heads. Just to talk about the book itself, actually, what I will do is I'll just change the camera over. We'll have a look at the book itself, and I'll take you through the sections of the book, and we'll talk about those as we go through, and I'll talk about some of the really nice mechanics in here, because that's the thing that sold it to me, are some of the mechanics. Not only the homunculus est army morale mechanic, which I'll talk about when we get to it in the book, but also the combat. I think the combat is absolutely fantastic in this. It's a really nice way of doing it, really smooth, and it just makes the game speed up. You've got it literally within a couple of moves how easy it is, and when I say easy, that doesn't mean to say that, you know, it's lacking any kind of definition. I mean that it is really smooth, elegant, I think is probably the best way to describe it. The entire package of this is actually, I'm very enthused by it, and I sound like I'm very enthused by it because I actually am. You know, playing it, I just thought everything just slots into place really well. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have a look at the book, and as I'd say, we'll talk about various aspects of the book, and you can see basically what kind of thing you get in the book, and also we'll just talk about the rules as a general thing as well as I'm going through it. Okay, so first up, great picture on the front. I think this came from Caranos Way, I don't know how you pronounce it, from Publishing House, who does one of their magazines is the Ancient magazine. They also do the WSS magazine, the Wargames Soldiers and Strategy. So first thing you see straight away are the 2mm figures. As I say, I think these ones might actually be Mark's himself, so it gives you an idea of the kind of game that you'll be looking at, really, using these figures. And I know a lot of people complain about 2mm, saying, oh, have you painted the eyes and all that kind of thing. They look fantastic when on a tabletop, they really do. You know, I won't have any arguments against them. I've used them for Rommel and things like that, and they look perfect for this type of game. So we open up with a contents page, of course, as you would expect. And as I say, even just the layout of the book itself is lovely. Plenty of information just on the right hand side there, just to show you exactly whereabouts in the book you are, so you can jump straight to the point that you need to be at as well. So that's really good, each chapter. We've already described it here, so it says what do you need to play Strength and Honour. It says you're looking at bodies of troop, large bodies of troop between 1,000 and 10,000 men, really just depending on what game or what battle you're actually playing yourself. So this just gives you your introduction, really, and gives you some basic sizes of bases that you don't have to get hung up on the base size, because this is a gridded game, so it's more about which grid you're actually in. It doesn't matter exactly how big the base sizes are, but for those of you that want to know, here we are. So we've got 2 to 6mm, 6 to 10mm, and then over 10mm. Obviously, I mentioned, you know, you could use it in 28mm if you really wanted to. It would be a big of a push, but it would still work. Obviously, I think the best size would be 2mm with 6mm coming in straight after it. What's nice as well is we also have these top tips as well from Trajan. You don't really need a huge amount of dice. You actually only need 3 dice to play Strength and Honour, which is a really good thing as well. You don't need tons of dice floating about, and I'll talk about that when we get to the actual fighting part of it, the combat, which I'm sure you're all itching to know. And we also need, as I said, I've already mentioned it, the cards. There is actually, I'll just jump to the back, there is actually the cards in the back of the book, so you can cut those out or photocopy them, or if you've got the PDF version, get them printed, as I did at either an external printer or your own printer. But so the cards are all prepared there, so you can cut them straight out and get playing with them immediately if you wanted to. Of course, we've got our glossary and everything as well, and this just gives you a little bit of an intro into it. And then we talk a little bit about the unit ratings, because each unit, to make them different, obviously has a different kind of rating. So we've got the movement, combat, manoeuvre rating, which we'll talk about in a second, discipline, and then any characteristics that they have, so like battle drill, or if they're pikes or things like that. And it shows you here. It just gives you an example of a Roman legion versus a Germanic warband. They've also included really nicely points as well for everything, for those people that do want to use points. You don't have to, you can do completely asymmetric battling if you want to, but if you want to have a more balanced force, then there are points available as well. And then we come on to talking about terrain and tables. And I mentioned already that the table is actually a grid. This is something I think is fantastic. A lot of people, for some reason, wargamers seem to say, oh, it's too much like a board game if it's on a grid, as though that's a bad thing. Board games aren't bad, they're good. You know, it's only like measuring and moving 6 inches. So each square is about 6 inches. So this for me is pretty good, because I play square bashing on a 6-inch square table. I've also got Rommel, and that's on a 6-inch square table, or 6-inch grid square table. And so it's exactly the same with strength and honour. I just need to flip those the principal armies onto my my gridded table already. And you could do this quite easily just by putting tokens down at every 6-inch interval. You don't have to have the fully gridded tablecloth or table mat or whatever you need. So I think, you know, that's again another nice easy entryway. The good thing about gridded games is you know exactly where the forces are, and somebody can't take advantage by, you know, squeezing somebody into a little bit of cover or pushing them forward by an inch or so, you know, to make sure that they're out of line of sight or something. You know exactly where the pieces are and where they're supposed to be. And then the other thing is, one other complaint a lot of people have is when you're moving obliquely, which you can do in Strength and Honour. They always say, oh well, it's like, you know, it's actually double the area. Well, actually it's not. Pythagorean maths is the if that's I'm going to go a bit nerdy here. If that is 1 and that is 1, you know, a base of 1 and 1, then that in the middle is 1.42. So you're not actually moving 2. You're only moving 1.42 if you're moving to the left or right obliquely. So you're not actually moving that much. And to me it doesn't matter, because again, you know, both of you have got that same opportunity to be moving around in that area. That's just a little bugbear that I have when people mention about gridded games in particular. I really don't I don't see the problem with them. But anyway, back to the review. We've got terrain generation here. So you can just set up a basic thing. The other thing to think about is the command board as well, which again, you can download these from the Too Fat Lardy's website and print these out. And this is where you'll have extra dice basically that you can use throughout the game. So this is really nice. You've got attack, defense, movement and strategy. You also have a generalship, and then your army breaks is where you put your cards, which we'll talk about in a second. And you get a certain amount of these depending on your force and how good they are, and you decide at the start of the game where you want to put them, and then throughout the game you can spend these points to, you know, re-roll an attack roll, re-roll a defense roll, or movement, or whatever it is that you want to do. I'm not going to go through everything because it's all in here anyway. So this is the way that works. So it's a nice little thing that you get a little bit of choice at the start of the game where you want to emphasise. So if you're defending, for example, you probably put most of your stuff in defence. If you're attacking, you put it in attack. If you wanted to get across the table quickly, you'd put it in movement, that kind of thing. So it just gives you a little bit of use out of just the game itself, which is great. And then we go on to the deployments for battle. This is on chapter 5 at this point, and just explains to you here how the skirmishers work also, because you can break skirmishers down into supporting and skirmish lines as well, which give you bonuses in fighting, and also just help out basically as a bit of a buffer. And it just talks about basically how you deploy all your bits and pieces here, obviously. So that's the deployment part. And then the sequence of play is very, very simple. You basically, one player, it's an I go, you go, but with the potential for you slipping up and passing your go over to the enemy. So we've had a bit of a running joke at the moment down the club where it's a bit like Blood Bowl, where a lot of these rules are very similar to Blood Bowl. Chris keeps saying, just like Blood Bowl at the end of a sentence. I don't know if Mark's played Blood Bowl or if he's a fan of Blood Bowl, but apparently a lot of these rules are similar to some of the stuff in Blood Bowl. So like the zone of controls, and if you fumble something in Blood Bowl, the play passes to the other player, that kind of thing. It also occurs in other games such as Crossfire, things like that, some older games. So it's not exactly Blood Bowl. He's taken it from, I wouldn't have thought. If you're watching this, Mark, let me know. Are you a fan of Blood Bowl? So the way it works is you basically activate each unit in your army. If you fail to activate them, then you get a reversal of fortune. You get a reversal of fortune, it goes straight to the your opponent's game, their turn, so they can start. And this is generally 2 movement activations if you fail those, or any of these other. So if you fail a maneuver test, if you fail a reform activation, or you're pushed back in combat, you become short of ammunition, or a homunculus est activation is also failed. So there's all these things that will stop the game from working, basically. Stop you from doing what you want to do. So you've got to think about what you want to do and what's the easiest thing. So moving a unit forward is much easier than trying to manoeuvre a unit onto the flank. So that's in itself, you're making choices and decisions about how to operate these huge bodies of men, basically. And it's a great feeling because it feels like, although things are slightly in your control, a lot of it is really out of your control, and that is a great thing. There is variable movement in it. Again, I'm a great fan of variable movement, and I was very interested in seeing how they would do this with grids. And basically you roll a dice, whatever the score is how many movement points you get, and you can move. Moving forward is simple. Doing a manoeuvre costs more, so we've got these other manoeuvres here. So an oblique advance, I was talking about it earlier, where you would shift up into the left or the right, you would turn, or you do an about face, or you can drift to the left and right. But these, you have to do a manoeuvre test. If you fail that, your turn ends, you go on to the opponent. So this is covering the manoeuvre tests here as well. And then we have the combat. Obviously into the combat, this is probably the main part of the rules. This is incredibly simple, and as I say, incredibly dynamic, and also very, very elegant. I'm really impressed at how good the combat actually is. Very simple. You have to charge into combat, or you have to be already up against your enemy to be able to fight them. And the way it works is brilliant. Each unit has a combat strength, so you only take one at a time. You get points for supporting units, you get points for skirmishers, you get points for if you're attacking downhill. You add those together and you compare the two, the attacking and the defender. If they are the same, so let's say the Romans have got a 4 and the Celts that they're fighting have got a 4, you roll 1 dice and then you consult the combat result table, and that tells you what happens. If you have more than the defender, or if one side has more than the other, let's say the attacker in this case has got more than the defender, then they will roll 2 dice and they will then choose their favourite score out of those. So obviously 6 being high, 1 being low, so they get to choose it. If they have double the amount of points, they roll 3 dice and then choose the best one out of those. The same occurs if the defender, for example, has a higher one. The attacker will roll 2 dice and then the defender will choose which one they want out of that. So they probably want something that's worse, so the attacker gets pushed back. Really, really, I can't stress how good I think this set of rules, this part of the rules is. Again, apparently it's very similar to Blood Bowl. But because Blood Bowl is such a good game anyway, I'm not bothered about that. But I just think this is a really, really nice way of just quickly getting through the grind of the combat with the size of these kind of armies. I think it's fantastic. And then of course, here we there's obviously outcomes from those results as well, which in some cases will trigger what's called a discipline test, where you will roll against your discipline, and then just see what happens with the unit as well, whether they rout or whether they become disordered, so it makes them easier to attack. There's quite a lot of bits and pieces as well beyond the actual combat. I just really think the combat itself is excellent. Shooting is very similar. You add up your combat score and you roll a dice, basically, or 2 dice or 3 dice. It's very similar to that, so there's not much point too much talking about that. Reforming is if you are already disordered, you will just try to, it's basically rallying from having bad morale. Now this is the other fantastic part of these rules. This is the Homunculus Est activation. This is brilliant, really good. Every time something bad happens to you, like you get pushed back, or you are retired, or you're disordered, you will end up getting one of these setback cards. And to show you on the back, setback cards have got different numbers on them, and they don't just have, they've got 1s and 2s and 3s, so they're the worst ones. They've also got 0s as well, and you also have excuse me, these disaster cards, the ones in black, and they're obviously even worse, and they go up to 7. And the way this works is you collect these, you don't look at them, neither you or your opponent looks at them, you put them face down, and then at some point in the battle your opponent can shout, "Homunculus Est, you are a small man," and then once that happens, you have to reveal the cards that you've got already in your hand built up. So you're basically waiting for them to build up a huge amount of cards. So, and if the number that is revealed, you add them all up. If the number is over the army break point, because you have a break point at the start of the game, then the game is over. They've lost. Their army is broken. If it is over half of their army break points, then they become fatigued, which makes it even harder for them to activate from then on in. So it's worthwhile calling Homunculus Est even before you think they're going to break, because it will just make them harder to operate their units as well. And I think that is a really good way of dealing with morale, just in general. And the fact, the fact that you basically got to wait until you think the time is right, that it's like the last charge kind of thing, that you're breaking the army in the centre. And I think it's brilliant. And the fact as well that you become fatigued as well if you're still able to take out over half of their cards. I think that's great as well. It really, adds to it. It doesn't mean that you're just waiting for the army to break. You're also wanting to get them fatigued as well. Fantastic stuff. That really good. Then, as we talked about previously, unit characteristics are just there, just to talk about what they have. And then we also have you can be a little bit more detailed if you really want to with the Roman formations, because they were a lot more battle trained than the mobs that they were usually fighting against. So they do have a few legionary formations. I'm fairly certain they will probably do more formations in future releases for Strength and Honour, for other ancient civilizations that use them. But I mean specifically here, we've got the Romans, so you're probably going to be using the Romans to fight against others. Talk about the baggage in the camps. And then also included as well are campaign rules. Some very nice, brief, again elegant campaign rules, just to give you a bit extra than the set battles that you would normally have. And then we come on to the army lists themselves as well, and there are tons of these. So we're starting here. We've got late Roman Republics, Principate Romans, the late Republican Romans, covering huge areas, the Gallic armies, the Belgic armies, slave revolt armies, German warlord armies, Numidian armies, the Parthians armies, tons of these, ancient Britons, Illyrians, half of these I've never even heard of, ancient Spanish, Pontic, Mithridatic, you can probably tell by my pronunciations, Armenians, the Jewish revolt armies, Dacians, Eastern Client kingdoms, so Judea, etc., Senatorian Spanish, Sertorian Spanish, social wars. You can tell Mark is a history teacher, a local Roman province governor armies, and again, all the points and everything you need to set up your armies are here, so you can just build up your own armies if you like. And on top of that, we also have 10 historical battle scenarios, and I know they just recently put out a couple of new scenarios as well. So again, you have your army list, so this is more specific. And then we also have the maps as well. Great maps here, done by Joe Bilton, Joe the Wargamer over on Twitter. A description of the actual fighting, and then also the historical outcome as well towards the back, just so you know what you're fighting up against. And this again covers a huge amount. I've been looking at, in particular, the whereabouts is it? We'll come through to it. The Boadicea, Watling Street, the Boadicea Revolt fight. So I'm probably going to make a video on this at some point, because I'm British, and my interest is archaeologically in the Romans. I suppose archaeologically I've dug a lot of Romans and Iron Age tribal areas up. So I think it'd be remiss of me not to look at the Iron Age revolts. So again, just loads of scenarios just in there, and then, as I said before, we've got the cards. The only thing that I think is probably missing is a contents. Sorry, not a contents, an index. But I did notice that somebody on the Facebook page over at the Strengthen on the Facebook page had already made one, or at least a brief one anyway. So that's the book itself. That is pretty much my review. As I say, there's some fantastic parts of this which has really drawn me towards ancient wargaming, from not having very little interest in it. It's a game that I'd be very happy to set up and play. I may even stretch to gain some 2mm figures at some point, but we'll see, because the storage is very small. I've already got a lot of 2mm stuff for Rommel already, for scenery and things, so I could quite easily transfer a lot of that over woods and hills and that kind of thing. I am incredibly impressed by how, as I say, elegant these rules are, and the fact that you get that really big battle feeling. This is not about the grinding minutiae of combat and who's carrying what, if they're carrying pilum or if they're carrying javelins. This is about huge numbers of men smashing into each other and just hoping that you're able to attritionally grind them and destroy the armies. Okay, I would suggest checking this out on the Right Switch Press website, which is, you'll find it at the Two Fat Lardies. I'll put a link down below, of course. So check that out in the description. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have, do let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up on the like button as well. Also, do check out my Patreon and also Ko-fi as well if you want to help support this channel. Go a little bit further, if you want to help me actually put together a Strengthen on a force, then all that money will go back into creating more videos for you. And I said I will. Once I've got around to cutting these armies out, I will put together some games and I will film those so you can see how the rules actually work in real time. So thanks once again for watching, and I will catch you in the next Storm of Steel video.